Samantha's making it today. That's good. We're missing a lot of folks today. That's not good. We're missing half the class. And you got
today is drop day, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And we had 4 people drop. I'm not sure I understand what that is, Amanda. What do you mean to my hand? What are you talking about? You can't see me. Oh. So, yes, Andy, why? Are you considered dropping?
No, not at all.
Okay.
But I got to tell you something that my family wanted to put Fofi's facts to the test because I told them about how you said we have about 5 minutes of oxygen in our bodies. And so they have challenged me. They want to hold me underwater for 30 minutes and see what happens.
You have a loving family, I can see.
So I hope you're right. I hope you're right. If I'm not at next class, you know why.
They want to hold you underwater for how long?
They said 3. They wouldn't go all the way to 5.
Okay. 3. Well, I mean, they may have to do CPR on you afterwards, but
oh, yeah,
no. What I meant by the 5 minutes is the point when you start getting brain damage. Okay, so the rule of thumb, if somebody has a heart attack and their heart stops, you literally have 5 minutes before you're getting to the point where even if you resuscitate them, they're going to have brain damage. And of course, the variable is if they are in ice cold water. And this is gee whiz for everybody. If you happen to drown in ice cold water, that's the best scenario because your metabolism slows down, your brain slows down, so you could probably stay submerged. And you can tell your family that if it's an ice bath, that they could go for, 6 or 7 minutes.
No, I'm leaving it at 3.
Okay, you're going to be okay. You're not going to be happy. Oh, that's cute. All right. Anything else? So, my news, I went to a party a couple weeks ago, and everybody at the party got COVID except me. Isn't that weird? A COVID party, yes. And I was informed just a couple days ago, like, hey, Rick, are you okay? I'm like, I'm fine. Why? Because everybody else got COVID at the party we were at. I'm like, shoot. So once again, I failed to get COVID. I know, right? COVID hates me for some reason. And he asked me if I made out with any strangers. Not that I remember. I was probably the only single guy there, to be honest with you, so that wasn't going to happen. But anyway, so that was weird. There's about maybe 15 people there, and apparently 12 out of 15 got COVID. And I was like, what? But yeah, so yeah. COVID and I just don't get along, apparently. So anyway, anybody else any interesting news? I did, Deanne. I did try my best. You guys know I've been trying to get COVID, so I know what it's like. But just doesn't seem to want to happen. Anybody else? Nothing? No comments? So Andrea's divulging family history. Well, I feel sorry for your aunt. Oh my gosh. That's interesting you should say that because my ex-father-in-law is also in the hospital with the UTI. So that's interesting. And we'll be talking about UTIs today a little bit. Yeah, right? Yeah, exactly. Okay, so although my slide says urinary, 90% of this lecture is going to be strictly on the kidneys. The rest of the urinary system, the ureters, the bladder, the urethra, that's simple stuff. Okay, this is again one of my favorite things. You know, if I had to list them in order, it would be the heart, then the lungs, and then the kidneys. And coincidentally, those are the big three systems that put most people in an ICU for a variety of reasons, but they all seem to work together. I'd like to think that you guys grasp that now, right? We all are smart enough to know that the kidneys do way more than make urine, right? So humor me. And who should I pick on? I don't know. Who's here today? I'm not recording this because we're missing 10 people. But we're going to keep it a little simple today. So, Natalia. Impress me, Natalia, for a gold star. How are the kidneys involved in regulating blood volume and pressure?
Oh, it has to do something with the hormones. I'm trying to recall that.
Okay, well that's good that you got the hormone part. You got the hormone thing. It's a hormone or two.
Epinephrine and norepinephrine regulates.
Oh, I know, but the kidneys don't release epi and norepi. That's not the kidney's job. It's the other big system that you guys were just tested on. Somebody help Natalia. What do the kidneys do for blood volume and pressure? Anyone? Oh my God. Seriously? I'm not going to say anything until I get a response from one of the 11 of you that are here today. What in way does the kidneys regulate? Thank you, Andrea. Come on, guys. Jeez. You just got tested on that. And guess what? You're going to be tested again. Yeah, the renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system. Good. Okay, and today we're going to talk about plasma ions and pH and whatnot. And we will talk about how we filter the blood and how we get things out. So the only thing that's not on here, so again, this is for another gold star. Angie gets a gold star today. What else does the kidneys do to ensure your hematocrit is where it's supposed to be, Andy?
Is it the reabsorption of sodium? Does that
No. Let's go back. Hematocrit, your red blood cell count. What do the kidneys release to ensure you have sufficient red blood counts? What hormone? This is also on the last test. I'll give you a hint. It starts with an E. All right, Cindy. Very good. EPO, erythropoietin. All right,
I was going to say that.
Yeah, we had a very long talk about EPO and Lance Armstrong and all that kind of good stuff. All right. So, like I said, the kidneys do a lot more cool things than just filtering your blood. All right. So again, this is our urinary system. again, today's focus is 90% on the kidneys. And there they are. They're about the size, a little bit smaller than your fist, unless you have small hands, and about the exact size of your fist. For some bizarre reason, which I never really bothered to look up in my life, maybe I will, but the kidneys are considered retroperitoneal. Does anybody know what that means, retroperitoneal? Okay, that's okay. That was AMP1. So the peritoneum is that serosa membranes that enclose all of your stomach, your small intestines, everything. But for some bizarre reason, the kidneys got left out. So the kidneys are outside of the serosa, all right, the visceral peritoneum. It's just one of those weird things. I don't know why. Is that important? Not really. Here we go. All right, so for your anatomy, there's your slide for the anatomy. We're going to go over this stuff. Okay, everybody got their pen and pencil? Pen and pencils out? Okay. All right, here we go. So one of your essay questions is going to be to tell me all about the flow of urine out of the kidneys. And so this slide gives you a little bit of how that works. We'll go into more detail in a second. I'm just letting you know right now. So you should put pencil down. Give me the flow of urine out of the kidneys from the renal papillae right here, which is not a big thing. It's just, those are just the bumps. The pelvis, calyces, major, minor, and the ureters and whatnot. Question 2. So boom, boom. Yes. One of your essay questions and some of your lab practical stuff is to outline the flow of blood through the kidneys. So this is a study slide. This is a test question. So we have the renal artery that goes in, that branches into the major segmentals, into the interlobar, arcuate, which are the ones that kind of like do the arc. Think of arcuate. And then in between the little lobes that we have, and then what's really, really important, which is in the dotted lines, because here is something similar to the hepatic portal system, just vaguely similar. So the afferent arteriole goes into what we call a nephron. We're going to talk about the nephron in just a second. And it's going to branch out into a capillary bed that has a unique name called the glomerulus. That's just a bed of capillaries. Then they will come back together to form the efferent arteriole. Then they will branch out again to form what we call the peritubular capillaries. This will all make way more sense. But we have a situation here where we have 2 sets of capillaries before we go to the venous side. All right, but this will all make way more sense in just a little bit, so just hang tight. So again, this is just the basic anatomy. All right, we have a cortex and medulla, and again, that's just simple anatomical terms. So the cortex is the outside in this picture. It's just the light area. And then the central portion is the medulla. And you can see, if you use a little bit of imagination, we have these triangular formations that are pyramids, all right? Within these pyramids and the cortex, we have over 1 million nephrons. And nephrons are what half of this lecture is going to be about, all right? And then, of course, this is part of that first question. And so the pyramids are going to empty into these calyces, which are these just passageways for the urine. So we have a minor and major calyces, and then they will enter the pelvis. This is the renal pelvis right here, and then ultimately down the ureter to your bladder. All right. So again, that's a significant portion of your anatomy for this next and last test. Oh my gosh, we're there, folks. This is it. So, yeah, and we're going to talk about regulating most of these ions, not all of them. Some are not that significant. All right, but again, we know a little bit about the renin, angiotensin-aldosterone system. That's good. We're going to learn a lot more about how the kidneys ultimately regulate your pH. And again, we'll talk a little bit more about sodium and potassium later. There's lots of things we have to get rid of. Most of these things are things that you produced. So the urea is when you break down amino acids to make what? If I'm breaking down amino acids, what am I trying to do? This is for 2 gold stars. What can I use amino acids for? You get 3 gold stars if you can actually give me the term that starts, it's one of our G words. Nobody? G word. Not glycine. Cindy, we haven't talked about glycine. That's an amino acid, sure. But in what occasion would I want to break down amino acids to make something else? Oh my goodness. No one? No one remembers any of the G words? I'm looking for a G word. If I have to, I can use proteins. Yeah, maybe maybe another language. Protein starts with a G. I don't know what language that would be, but I'm sure it's out there. Oh, Andrea's close. Okay, Joshua. And what do we call that process if I'm going to use amino acids to make glucose? No. Glycolysis is breaking it. Okay, Bucola got 2/3 of it right. What are you missing, Bucola? You're missing something. There we go, Cindy. All right, now we got it. All right, gluconeogenesis. So yeah, so if I need to make glucose because I'm hurting, I will take the amino acids, break them down to make glucose. Not that this is important, but your amino acids have nitrogen groups, and so those are going to form the urea. Not important. Uric acid from nucleic acids, creatinine. Again, remember creatine phosphate. That's our quick energy source. Hemoglobin, we've talked about that. Remember, we make our heme groups are catabolized to make bilirubin. Lots of our hormones will be broken down. So we're going to get rid of all this stuff. These are things that you produced in your body. All right. They're not really toxins unless their levels go up really high. Then yeah, you got a problem. All right. That indicates you got kidney issues. And then of course, all those foreign substances that you ingested, all the drugs, recreational or otherwise, that you may have ingested, the kidneys will eventually get rid of them. So once again, I'm sure I've mentioned this before. What good is a detox program? Okay, all right, Joshua, Diani. Yeah, all right. Don't get suckered in to a detox program, all right? Your liver and your kidneys are amazing. And there is absolutely nothing to a detox program. So don't get suckered into something like that, all right? Here's a really simple question. The answer starts with a D. Why aren't any toxins built up in your body? Why don't you have a huge buildup of toxins somewhere in your body? One word answer starts with D. No, those are good things, but it's even simpler than that. What happens when you have a high concentration of anything? What is it going to do? Come on. Thank you, Andy. Andy, you get a gold star. You're really racking them up, aren't you? All right. Yeah, so there's no such thing as anything building up in your body, all right? If you have anything, it's going to diffuse, and ultimately it's going to diffuse into your bloodstream, and ultimately your liver and your kidneys will take care of it. All right? So don't spend any money on detox or diarrhea. That's part. Good one, Cindy. Yeah. That would be number 2, diffusion and diarrhea. I like that. Yes, Andrea, I can't believe you heard that. Yes, you're right. One of my stupid smoke detectors is beeping. The only problem is I don't know which one it is. I can't really echolocate it, but yeah, I'm sorry about that. I will work on that after the lecture today, but one of my stupid smoke detectors is beeping, freaking out my dogs, but I'm not sure exactly which one it is. Okay. But good call. I'm impressed that you detected that. All right, where were we? All right, yeah. So no nasty green slimy drinks. For crying out loud. Hold on. Okay, yeah, and my phone and my alarm going off. So, all right, sorry about that, guys. Hold on. People still trying to buy my house. All right, here we go. Oh, where was I? Okay. So, yeah, so we hopefully already know about the RAAS thing, and yes, this is going to be on your next test, so if you didn't get it the first time, you will get it the second time, for sure. And we already know about EPO, and then we'll talk about some of the minor chemical signals, the prostaglandins and kinins, and these are local. These are the cells, what we call intrinsic control, local control that deal with that, and we'll get there when we can. All right, so here's where all the action happens, folks. This is it. This is the nephron. And again, this will be almost everything on here is on your lab practical. All right. So we have our renal corpuscle right here. We have the afferent arteriole going in, the efferent arteriole going out. All kinds of cool things happen here in the renal corpuscle. And then we have what's called the proximal convoluted tubule, PCT, proximal because it's close to the corpuscle. Then the ascending and descending loop of Henle. Then we have the distal convoluted tubule and then the collecting duct. And we're going to go through all this stuff. So this is just kind of overview. All right. So again, another overview slide because we're going to go through all of this thoroughly. So what happens quickly, like I said, we're going to go into all this stuff in detail. Blood goes into this nephron. Remember, we have like 100 million of these things, and or 1.25 million to be exact. But anyway, blood goes in, it's under high pressure, and it's going to force the plasma out. Everything that was in the plasma is getting out, except what? Somebody What is not going to be pushed out? You should know this. We've already talked about it on a number of occasions. Starts with a P because it's big. Thank you, Bukola. Thank you. All right, Diani. Excellent. Yeah. So everything that was in the blood, that was in the plasma, is pushed out except for obviously the red blood cells, white blood cells, and proteins. And now this amazing proximal convoluted tubule is going to start reabsorbing all the stuff you want to keep. You want to keep your glucose, your amino acids, certainly most of the water, sodium, you name it. And then it goes through this descending and ascending loop of Henle, where we're going to adjust just how much urine you're going to produce and the concentration, which again we'll explain later. And then the DCT is your last chance to get rid of anything you don't want, which again we'll explain later. Once it passes the DCT and enters what's called the collecting duct, this is now officially called the urine. All right, so a couple name changes. The fluid in your bloodstream is plasma. The plasma that's pushed out is now called filtrate. The filtrate goes through this process, and ultimately the filtrate, once it gets to the collecting duct, is now officially urine. So from plasma to filtrate to urine. Everybody got that? Okay. Cool. I'm still. Hey, I just noticed Katie joined us. How you doing, Katie?
Good, but you're driving me insane with your pronunciation of renal. It's renal, not renal.
Renal, potato, whatever. All right. I like renal. Renal. Okay. All right. So, like I said, the nephron is, let me go back here to emphasize this, is the functional unit. This is where everything happens. The filtration process happens. All right. Okay, and now.
I blame it on the fact that you're from Las Vegas.
Yeah, I'm from Las Vegas, so it's renal. All right. Renal, according to her. All right, good enough. All right, so we have two types of nephrons, or is that nephrons? I don't know. Cortical, and again, that's just because they primarily lie in the cortex, and juxta, which means next to, medullary for the medulla, juxtamedullary, and this is where really the more important action happens in this juxtamedullary nephron that we're going to talk about. All right. Now, let me go back. This is not anatomically correct. All right. So use your imagination. In real life, everybody see where the DCT is? Give me a yes, please. So I know you're all with me. All right. In real life, they've opened this up so we can see the nice, cute flow. In real life, this DCT would actually be right in between the afferent and efferent arteriole. All right. So keep that in mind for your lab practical. All right. Yeah, it's splayed out so you can see it, but that's not how it really looks. The DCT travels right between the two afferent and efferent arterioles, and I'll explain that in a little bit. All right, so here it's a little bit more anatomically correct, as you can see. But again, the juxtamedullary nephrons is where we have this thing, which I'll explain later. That's probably the hardest part of this lecture, not to worry. And again, more anatomy stuff. And then you have all these capillaries, these peri, remember, peri means around, peritubular capillaries. They're surrounding our PCT, DCT, and loops of Henle. All right. The difference of significance here is for the juxtamedullary nephrons. You see these capillaries aren't so much surrounding, they're not peri. We call them vasa recta. Vasa for vessel, recta for straight. So they kind of go up and down alongside the loop of Henle. All right. And that'll make way more sense in a little bit. So we look at the renal corpuscle. And again, the capillaries have a special name called the glomerulus. All right. Okay, I just got an echo there. Weird. We have the capsule that surrounds the glomerulus. That's the person's name, Bowman. Whoever figured that out, Mr. Bowman, Dr. Bowman, whatever. Or it could be Miss Bowman, I don't know. And then again, the normal name would be glomerular capsule, which I prefer. And we have the parietal and visceral layer. That's trivial. Don't worry about that. The parietal layer is what we're concerned about. That's the simple squamous that actually makes the capsule. The visceral layer is something that we call podocytes, which we'll explain in just a second. All right. But again, what's important here is we have this afferent arteriole, and again, for lab practical purposes, to identify so you don't get confused, it's going to be larger than the efferent arteriole. So the afferent arteriole enters, it branches out into the glomeruli, where things will happen, and then when we're done filtering that percentage of blood, we will exit through the efferent arteriole and out to the peritubular capillaries. So, what's unique about these capillaries? Yes, Christina, the efferent is smaller, all right? It's one of those things, it's kind of like what we talked about when we talked about the vascular system. The afferent is larger, and then it branches and branches, and we reduced the cross-sectional area, so there's a lot of pressure, a lot more pressure. So we're sticking the garden hose into this renal corpuscle to push a lot of the plasma out. All right. So what is left that goes out the efferent, and I'll explain this a little bit more shortly, but 20% of the plasma has been pushed out into the capsule, so it's smaller because there's less volume, 20% less volume. All right, so these capillaries are unique because they have these scary looking cells called podocytes. And so you can see they have a nuclei, and these podocytes have little tiny projections, all right, we call foot processes, ergo the name podo, which again is Latin for foot. And the whole purpose of these little projections is to make a second filter system, all right? So the capillary itself has pores and clefts, so they will leak stuff out, and the podocytes act as a second filter. And the distance between the foot processes, the filtration slits, are smaller than the pores. So that's to ensure that nothing big gets out, i.e. proteins. All right. So several of these slides are redundant just to drive the point home. All right. So we push the plasma out. It now gets a new name. What's the new name, everybody? Very good, Christina. Filtrate. The proximal convoluted tubule will now do everything to reabsorb everything that we want to keep. And the rest of the system tweaks. And we'll talk about that when we get there. All right. And again, what happens, and here let me go, so you get the big picture. Let me go to my whiteboard. And if I can hook this up. All right. And this will apply to everything that we're talking about as far as absorption and secretion and whatnot. So let me do this real quick. Okay, beauty. All right, so what I want you to get out of this is, oh God, that beep is annoying as hell. I don't know. Oh, goodness gracious. All right, so what I want you to get out of this is once we're in the, I'm going to just say this is the PCT, proximal convoluted tubule. So here's my convoluted tubule. And right next to that is my peritubular capillary. And I'll write this out if you're... I'm not going to spell that out. Cap. All right. All right. So, everybody with me so far? All right. So, there are things in the filtrate, it's now the filtrate, that I want to keep. And that is the glucose, my amino acids, much of my sodium, water for sure, and lots of other things. And so those amazing cells that make up the PCT, I'm going to embellish here, and you would have learned this in AMP1, what kind of cells make up my renal tubules? All right, come on. I kind of showed it there to you. What kind of cells make up our renal tubule? Seriously, these look like squamous cells to you? Really? Really? Cuboidal. All right, very good. Simple cuboidal. And these remarkable cells have the ability to take this stuff off and send it into the peritubular capillaries. And this black pen is shot. Okay. That's the reabsorption part. All right. That's the reabsorption. So again, this is the filtrate. All the things I want to keep, I'm going to have these cool little cuboidal cells are going to pull it out and dump it over to the other side through the peritubular capillaries, and now it's back in my bloodstream. Everybody with me? Beauty. All right. Okay. All right. And I'll just throw this in here real quick. And then there's things in here that I don't want to keep, like urea. And now I'm going to send the urea over to the other side. Okay. So this is reabsorption. I'm not going to write that out. Reabsorption. And this is secretion. Whatever I don't want to keep. And again, urea, if you remember, probably not. This is lipid soluble. And so it's always going to go from high concentration to low concentration. So it'll just diffuse across because it's higher in the bloodstream than the filtrate. All right. I just wanted you to see that before we put this on. All right. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. So that's the function of the peritubular capillaries. All right. The vasorecta have a very different role that we'll talk about later. All right. So this is what I was just about to cover. So filtration is just pushing the plasma out of the circulatory system into the capsule. So everything that was in the plasma is now filtrate, except, one more time, everybody together, what's not in there. All right. Thank you, Diani and Bukola and Christina and Andy. Beautiful. It's extremely important that you know that, all right? And then I'm going to reabsorb as much as I can that's good for me. Again, the nutrients, the glucose, the amino acids, you name it. And then secretion is where some stuff, if you look down here, it says tubular secretion. And that's what I meant by my drawing, where things like urea and whatnot will be thrown in here. Secretion is kind of like, somebody's going to take out the trash, and as they're on their way out the door, you're like, hey, wait, throw this out while you're on your way. All right. Okay, so use your imagination what you're looking at. So on the left side is a capillary. We got pores. On the right side is those podocytes and the filtration slits and the foot processes. So again, these foot processes, these filtration slits, act as a second barrier or filter. So only the smallest things get through, all right? And of course, this is the artist's representation of a protein, which is fine, but you can see the proteins are too big to fit through the pores, and certainly too big to fit through the filtration slits produced by the podocytes. All right. Now, there's always exceptions. So there are some tiny proteins, some of our albumins that are really small that can squeak by, especially if you have higher blood pressure. All right. So I think there's one simple question about this on your test. So what you need to know is, remember, NM is nanometer. So if it's 180 nanometers, it's going right through the pore and the filtration slits. If it's above 360, it's too big, it's not. All right. But again, there are some really small proteins that can squeak by, but only a tiny percent. All right. So 7 grams out of 70,000 grams squeak through. Not much. So again, if you were to test your urine, if you got a urinalysis and you had high levels of protein in there, what does that mean? What does that mean, folks? If you go get a urinalysis and they find lots and lots of protein, what should that tell you? You now have enough knowledge. Okay, I'll accept Diani's answer. Yeah, something's broke here, folks. You have kidney damage, and I'm talking like these capillaries are ruptured or these podocytes are ruptured, but something's leaking through. You should not have high levels of protein in your system, all right? And certainly, it's even more catastrophic if you have hemoglobin or red blood cells in your urine. That means, oh my gosh, you have such amount of damage that red blood cells are leaking out of the capillaries and into the nephron. That's bad. That is super bad. If you have blood in your urine, oh my gosh. I'd like to think you would know that, because usually that means like, oh, Andrea brings up preeclampsia. Can anybody tell me when they first heard of preeclampsia? It's from I like that, Andrea. I had to look it up. There's a television series, a super popular British TV series is the first time I heard preeclampsia. For a gold star, what am I talking about? God, Andrea had it? Christina had it? Deanna doesn't know. What series, British in nature, involving somebody that was pregnant, and I first heard the word preeclampsia, and I was like, what? I had to look it up. It's very, very popular series on HBO, whatever. Nobody? All right. Doctor Who. Katie just gave you a hint. Anybody? Anyone? Oh my God. I know many of you have watched it. And like I said, that stuck out to me, but no one knows. Very good, Samantha. Samantha gets a gold star. And how did you know that, Samantha? Okay, so she just used the deduction. All right, yeah. So in Downton Abbey, yeah, Lady Mary had preeclampsia, which unfortunately took her life. But yeah, but I had to look that up because yeah, we don't even use that. But apparently, holy cow, Andrea and Christina had it. Oh my goodness! All right, but honestly, we're all okay. Twice, jeez. All right. And how did that feel? What? Just out of curiosity, what did they give you for that? Because, like I said, I heard of preeclampsia, and that was like 1915. So, magnesium. All right. So Christina says magnesium. All right. But yeah. Okay. Well, that's interesting stuff. This is why I like teaching, because I learned something. And Katie puts, yeah, there were some bizarre things in there. All right. Okay. So, yeah, you don't want any hemoglobin or red blood cells in your urine. That means your kidneys are really messed up. All right. So, again, let's get back to glomerular filtration. So, we're going to push a bunch of stuff out. All right, I'm just reading Christina's thing. You had hydronephrosis because the baby was sitting on my ureter, which is probably not uncommon. Baby's either sitting on your bladder or your ureters. Yeah. Wow, Christina, that sounds like a rough pregnancy. Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. Again, thanks for sharing. All right. Okay, so here we go. Starling, that's the same Starling from Starlings in the Heart. Like I said, he was a very prominent physiologist, so he named everything after himself. But again, we would just call that hydrostatic pressure. All right. So again, lots of pressure, and it's going to push a lot of that plasma out of the capillaries into the glomerular capsule. All right. And you've seen this briefly. All right. That's the oncotic or colloid osmotic pressure. Remember, you push the plasma out, all but the proteins. The proteins stay within the capillary, so water is going to osmose back in because proteins are higher inside the capillary than outside. So that's our definition of osmosis. That's why I made a big deal of it in the beginning. Water is always going to go from a high solute or low solute concentration to high solute concentration. All right, here we go. GFR, this is a big thing. This is one of your big pencil and paper. This is one of your test questions. GFR, the total amount of filtrate formed per minute by the kidneys. All right. And the factors are simple. We have the filtration coefficient, which we don't care about. We're going to call that a constant. So all we're truly concerned about is net filtration pressure. All right, so don't worry about the KF. We're going to call that constant unless, of course, you have kidney damage. All right, so what's important here is this down here. The amount of pressure, and we're talking about blood pressure, folks. We're talking about that afferent arteriole going into the nephron. The higher the pressure, the more filtration I'm going to produce. That should make sense. We're pushing more stuff out because we're under higher pressure. All right, so don't let this slide freak you out. Don't worry about all these math numbers. Just understand that we have a lot of pressure in the blood. It's pushing the plasma out. That's what we call our glomerular hydrostatic pressure. And that's 55 millimeters of mercury. But, like I said, that water wants to go back in via osmosis because there's way more proteins in those glomeruli than outside. And so water is going to go back in. That's my glomerular oncotic pressure, which is 30. And the last pressure is capsular hydrostatic pressure. And that's just, think of the Bowman's capsule as like a balloon. All right, so we fill it up with plasma. It stretches. And just like a balloon would want to do, it wants to contract. And it pushes more fluid back into the capillaries. And that's my capsular hydrostatic pressure, which is 15. So what's really, really, really important here is this is the hydrostatic pressure that pushed the plasma out. These two pushed it back in. So the net filtration pressure is 10. And that's what you really need to know, that 10. All right. You can just blow off this slide completely. All right, I'm not going to. To me, this is a graduate level stuff. I don't even know why I still have the slide still in here. All right, but we don't care about this. So yeah, the filtration slips can change size, but just blow it off. All right. This, however, is very important. So, if we are at our parasympathetic influence, meaning we're all just chilling out, 20 to 25% of your cardiac output is going to the kidneys. So how many liters would that be, Andy?
Like 2
what?
liters.
So 20% of what is, all right, somebody help Andy out. What's our cardiac output standard? Somebody? No, Christina, your cardiac output isn't 500 milliliters. You would be dead. Come on, guys. Cardiac output. Somebody give me a number. Please. Samantha, 5 milliliters. Seriously, Samantha, 5 milliliters. So, okay, very good, Ashley and Samantha. Good. 5 milliliters. That's cute. 5 drops of blood. All right, so that's what I want to see. I know what you meant, Samantha. I'm just kidding because I know you didn't mean 5 milliliters, but yeah, 5,000 milliliters, 5 liters. So I just want to impress upon you that when you are relaxed under parasympathetic influence, 1/5 of your blood is going to the kidneys. And I think we showed that way back when in the vascular system. All right. So between 20 and 25% is going to the kidneys of your full cardiac output. So 1 to 1.2 or 3 liters. All right. So here's what I'm going to do for you, even though there's not a lot of people here, but it does involve math. And we all know how you all love math. All right. So I'm going to record this section. Everybody got it? And of course, this slide is courtesy of Katie. She did a great job on this slide, and I'm going to draw it out on my camera in a little bit. But so on your exam, I'm going to give you the variables, and you're going to calculate your glomerular filtration rate. All right. And remember, let's go through that again. Where is it? Damn it. Okay, GFR, one more time. How much filtrate are you producing per minute for the entire, both kidneys? All right, both kidneys. How much filtrate are you producing? How much plasma are you pushing out? And so here's the numbers you need. First of all, we need to calculate cardiac output. And Katie conveniently put that for me. If you forgot, is heart rate times stroke volume. And Katie conveniently gave you numbers that get you very close to 5 liters or 5,000 milliliters. All right. So she gave you heart rate of 70 and stroke volume of 71. As we said, we're going to say 20 and 25%, so we'll use 22%. That's the amount of blood that is going to the kidneys. All right. Now we're only concerned about plasma. So I'm going to give you a hematocrit of 45%. Somebody define hematocrit. Somebody's define hematocrit. Come on. Somebody that I haven't heard from. Jennifer Solano. What's hematocrit mean?
Does it has to do with the ratio of the blood red blood cells? Sorry.
Yes, it has everything to do with the ratio of red blood cells. So again, very good. That is the percentage that are red blood cells. Are we concerned about red blood cells when we talk about filtration?
It's the percentage by volume of red blood cells in your blood. There you go. Sorry.
No, don't apologize. You're right on. That's exactly right. But are we concerned about red blood cells?
No.
No. We're concerned about what? Very good, Bukola. So for this equation, what do I have to do? It's really, really simple. My hematocrit's 45%. That means my plasma is what? Okay, very good, Vanessa. So that would be in this particular equation. Come on, Vanessa. Thank you. And this is where many of you are going to screw up on your exam. You're going to forget to convert this. You're going to use 45%. That's your red blood cell percent. You need to subtract whatever percent I give you from 100. Does everybody follow me? Okay. And the last variable that I have to give you is how much is going to be filtered, how much is going to be pushed out of the capillaries. And again, this number can change, all right? And here's your caveat. Who knows what caveat means? What's caveat mean? Caveat emptor, caveat canum. No one remembers what caveat means? Stipulation? Okay, that's kind of close. Maybe I didn't really cover caveat. It's one of my favorite words. Caveat means warning. I know you guys didn't take a Latin class, but caveat emptor in Latin means let the buyer beware, like buying a used car. So yes, Andy, conditions is good. So who can guess what caveat canum means? You get a gold star if you can tell me what caveat canum means. The key there is canine. Very good, Christina. Christina gets a gold star. I'm not going to downgrade that. Yeah, beware of dog. So caveat canum means beware of dog. Okay, so what I mean here by the caveat is don't memorize these numbers, folks. I'm going to change them because I can. All right, now I want to talk you through this, and then we're going to take and do another one with different numbers together. All right, so I need to know what my cardiac output is. So I multiply heart rate times stroke volume, and I get it convenient 5,000 milliliters per minute. Then I say 22% goes to the kidneys. 22% of 5,000 gives me 1,100 milliliters. So this is my renal blood flow. That's going to the kidneys. Now, of that blood, we are only concerned about the plasma. And because we know the hematocrit is 45%, the plasma has to be 55%. So 55% of 1,100 is 605 milliliters. That's my renal plasma flow. Of that plasma flow, I gave you a filtration fraction of 20%, which comes out to 120 milliliters per minute, and that's my GFR. Now, let me go back here real quick. When I give you this problem, your number needs to fall somewhere in between here. Again, men have more blood than women. That's just a standard thing for the most part. All right. But when you do this problem on the test, your number should be somewhere between 140 and 110. All right. Does everybody get that? If you come up with something that's outside the range of 140 or 110, then you did something wrong. More than likely, you forgot to do the hematocrit conversion here. All right. You got to remember this. This is where everybody screws up. So let's try one, shall we? And you guys should be following along with me. So I'm going to go to the camera and let's just do it. And I'm just going to make these numbers up out of my head. I hope they come out fairly right. I don't know if they will. Okay. All right. So I'm going to give you, again, heart rate and stroke volume. So let's just say, I don't know, 80 is my heart rate. My stroke volume is also 80. So my cardiac output is, you guys need to do all the math. I'm not doing any of the math. I don't have my calculator. You guys got your phones. Christina comes up with 6,400 milliliters per minute. Outstanding. Now I'm going to say that I hope everybody's doing this with me. All right. I'm going to say the blood flow to the kidneys is only, so this is renal blood flow, is only 15%. So that equals what? All right. Is there anybody else participating besides Christina? You guys better be doing this because this is like a 6-point question. All right. Okay. So, and I'm going to take Christina's word for it. That 15% of 6,400 is 960 milliliters per minute. Yeah, you got to get your math right. Okay. And now I'm going to say that my hematocrit is 40%. So what's my renal plasma flow? Okay, that's the percentage. So what's my renal plasma flow? Okay, so renal plasma flow, according to everybody, I'm taking their word for it because I'm not doing the math here, is 560 per minute. Okay. Deani asked the question. Natalia and Christina asked them how, Andrea explained to Deani how they got 560. All right. So again, remember, this is the hematocrit, and we are worried about the plasma, which is 60%. All right. And so 60% of our blood flow is 960, and so that comes to 576. Does that make sense, Deani? Okay. And then the last is the filtration. All right. And so I'm just making up numbers. So the filtration fraction is, I got to make these numbers make sense. I'm going to say it's 30% because I can, because I am the professor. And so what is my GFR? All right. So as you can see, I really screwed this up, didn't I? I really screwed this up. Now this is good. Maybe this is a good lesson. Yeah, I screwed up somewhere on this. Yeah, here's where I probably screwed up. Let's do this. Let's make this 10%. Now what do we get? Well, it's even worse. Okay. So we needed something between 10 and 30. All right. Okay. All right. So this is actually a good lesson. So like I said, okay, thank you, Christina. Thank you. Maybe that's what I should have started with. So let's make this 20%. And Christina, and I take her word for it, says that's 115. Is Christina blowing everybody away? Did we lose some people here? I'm sorry. All right, Christina, listen. I was trying to come up with different numbers because I don't want you to memorize the ones on the slide. All right. So, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Christina, because I think you're blowing everybody away. So, yeah, like I said, just made these numbers up out of my head, and so the 30% was out of the range, and that's the thing that should hit you is like, oh gosh, no, this is wrong. That's too high. So I assure you that the numbers will get you in the range. All right. So as Christina cleverly came up with, if I would have went back to what's actually the normal, 20% of this gives me 115, which is right where it's supposed to be. Do I need to do one more? Deani says yes. All right, so I'm going to give you one more that would be involved if you were doing a 10K run. So pay attention, because this could be certainly out of the range of the normal 110 to 140. So be aware, we're going to do one that's crazy. You're now on a 10K. All right, so heart rate is 120. Stroke volume is 100. What's my cardiac output? Somebody. All right, so yes, that's my 12,000 milliliters or 12 liters. All right, so yeah, we're running. Our heart's up, our stroke volume's up. Now remember, now I'm under sympathetic response. All right, sympathetic response, which means where's most of my blood going? Somebody?
The skeletal muscles.
Thank you, Andy. Yes, it's going to the skeletal muscles. It's not going to the kidneys. So my renal blood flow is going to be, let's say, 5% to the kidneys. So that would be what? 5% of 12,000. Okay. Andy and Andrea and Natalia all say 600. I'll take your word for it. Beautiful. Yeah. I reduce blood flow to my kidneys. And my hematocrit, because I'm in super shape, is 50%. I'm right on the edge of being disqualified from the Olympics. So what's my renal plasma flow? Yeah, 300. All right. Everybody with me? Beautiful. And my filtration fraction is going to be, I don't know. Let's just go with our standard 20%. Maybe I'll keep that as, yeah. Is that right? 20% and 300 is 60. Yeah. And that's not in range, but again, we are in a 10K run. And this is why, and we'll explain this later on, not tonight. That is why normally if you get a nice pee break before you go off on your run or whatever, your marathon, or for me, a 60-mile bike ride, I don't have to pee. Why? Because I'm not making a whole lot of urine. 60 milliliters is my GFR. So I am not producing a lot of urine. And therefore, most people that run a 10K, most people, if they do it properly, don't have to stop to take a pee, all right, on a bicycle, because I'm not making a whole lot of filtrate, which means I'm making, again, less urine. Does that make sense to everybody? All right. Now, I'm not going to give you an exercise one, but this, I just thought you'd like to know out of GWiz Normally, if like I said, I've done many 10Ks in my life and bicycle races, and they always have the porta potties out there because everybody takes a nice good pee before, knowing that during the run or the bike ride they're not going to make enough urine to have to stop and pee, because this is the key. You're not getting much blood to the kidneys, so you're not making a lot of urine. All right. Any questions? So this is like a 6-pointer on your test. That's true as well, Natalia. You're losing a lot of water through sweating. So once again, and Natalia, impress me. So you're losing a lot of water from sweating. So what other hormone are you producing to reduce the amount of water you're losing from perspiration? Anybody? But since Natalia brought it up, what are you producing? This was in your lecture several weeks ago. What are you producing? Because you can't stop the loss of water through perspiration, but you can stop the water that you're excreting from your kidneys. Because of what hormone? Anyone? Oh, wow. Vanessa, you really had to spell all that out? You're right on, Vanessa. Excellent. You could have said ADH. But does everybody see Vanessa's answer? She's right on with that. So yeah, you produce and what other hormone besides Vanessa, she's on target, are you producing to reduce the amount of salt and water you're losing? Come on, guys, dig deep. What other hormone are you releasing to reduce the amount of salt and water you're losing from perspiration? Outstanding, Joshua. You get a gold star. All right. Joshua, aldosterone. So yeah. So again, when you're doing your 10K or whatever, you're producing ADH and aldosterone, which is going to retain the water and the salt through ADH and whatnot. Beautiful. I'm trying to give you some applied stuff here that makes sense. Any questions? All right, we're going to call it a night. Anybody have any questions? We're going to call it a night. And I recorded this last bit, and I'll post this for this particular question. Yeah, but we have a whole nother Wednesday for the renal system, according to my schedule. So, yeah, we're good. Yeah, we have a whole nother lecture for kidneys, and so we're halfway through. Yeah, Christina, I'm going to work on that. I got to find out which one it is. There's one of 3. It's coming from the hallway. It's going to drive me nuts. Anyway, but again, we have a whole nother lecture for the kidneys. On Wednesday. Anybody have any questions about anything? Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness? Nothing. Okay. All right. All right, then. I will see you on Wednesday. Have a nice Monday, if there is such a thing. All right. Good Good night.